First of all, as I say, thank you all for this privilege and the honor of standing here before you all, to share with you all and hopefully to build a relationship with you all. In meeting some of the members of your newly formed executive over the past few weeks, I had some conversations with them, and I think this is a continuation of a conversation and really a fulfillment of something that I hope can develop. Just to give you a little bit of insight into my journey here, as you would have heard from my bio a short while ago, I've been a practicing attorney for the last 16, going on 17 years. And I've been involved with the People's National Movement since about 2004 at various levels. And it was really in a professional role that I've been involved, doing a number of litigation matters for the leadership of the party, starting with our former Prime Minister, the Honorable Patrick Manning, and then filtering down to our current political leader and the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Keith Rowley. I have a personal vision, and that personal vision sits with each one of you all in the room and the wider young community. We as the young people, it is time for us to start taking up the mantle of leadership. It is time for us to start taking responsibility for the country. So as I sat here and I listened to the presentation, there were a lot of heartstrings being pulled. It is important that every one of you all in this room realize the responsibility that you now carry. And my challenge to you all here this evening, I'm going to start off slowly, and as we develop a relationship over time, I'm going to increase the challenges. Because I have personally taken up the challenge. In March of this year, when Dr. Rowley asked me to go and sit in the Senate, it meant giving up a comfortable private life to now get involved in a public life. Of course, that very, very quickly mushroomed, so I now find myself as the chosen candidate going into a general election for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. If you had spoken to me in January of this year, I would have never rolled out as part of my plan a public political life. But when Dr. Rowley asked me in March to sit in the Senate, it was a quick decision. I have very young children, and I look around at the landscape and what we've been subjected to, I think is the right word, for the last 4 years. And we can't sit down anymore. And we can't sit down and take what has been going on anymore for 4 years. We're going into a general election. Each one of you all have to pick up the responsibility and do what you can in your own way. But it goes beyond a general election. We as young people, and I still consider myself young, but more so you all as the next young generation, you have to start getting involved. What Michael was speaking about, you have a powerful voice. And what I want, he used a word up there, empowerment. When I have studied the political landscape, the difference with what we're seeing for the last 4 years is they don't want to empower people. They don't want to empower young people, and they don't want to empower the general public. And I think this is something that in the past we have all been guilty of. And it's time that we as the young people stand up and be counted. And what I want to challenge you all to, and I'm looking around and the foundation makes sense to me. We are the thinkers going forward into the future, and every single one of us has to begin that thinking process, and you all have begun it already, I'm sure. So develop it. Start spreading it in your community. The people you're sitting down next to on a daily basis, start the talk, start building the talk, because we are the ones who must carry the country forward into the future. That is a responsibility that I am taking seriously. And I need the help of all young people, because we have the voice. We have to push the leadership, not only the leadership of our party, but the leadership in the wider community. So when you all went to the conference, the post-budget conference, and you asked the hard questions of the leaders, that's a good thing. Let them know that we as young people, this new generation, we're not just going to take out what they dish at us. Those days are over. And even the PNM, as we form the next government, hopefully from next year, we must be prepared to do the same thing, to listen to the young people and to listen to the thinkers in the society. And that is what you all have to do. You all have to start pushing those boundaries, formulate the policy. I was heartened to hear you all talking about formulating national policy. Make sure your voice is heard. Let the foundation become one of the voices that the public listens to. I've been a lawyer for 16 years, and I think the Law Association has failed society. The Law Association and various associations have a responsibility and a civic duty they don't take seriously enough. We, when there are national issues and challenges, we as the Law Association, I sat on the council the first year I was back in 1998, and that was the year when there was a clash between Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj was the AG, and Michael de Labastide was the Chief Justice, and Carl Hudson Phillips was leading the Council of the Law Association. And the issue was the independence of the judiciary. And that's one of the last times I actually saw the Law Association come forward, and I disagreed. I was the only one on the council who disagreed with the position being taken, but at least we had a vibrant association. And I'm seeing these associations, these professional associations, fail the country. I was fortunate enough 2 weeks ago to be invited by the Institute of Chartered Accountants to sit on their panel discussion. They had a 2-day conference, and they invited me to talk about the public procurement, because we recently in the Senate passed a public procurement bill, and you all will be pleased, as the opposition, we contributed significantly to the molding of that bill going forward. It's now waiting in the lower house. So they asked me to talk at it. And I stood up in that room of hundreds of people, of these accounting professionals, and I listened to them, and I challenged them at the end. I said, you know, the same challenge I've put out to you all. Every single one of the right-minded and civil-minded persons in society, you have a responsibility and a duty. It's no longer about sitting down and saying, oh, the leadership doing this or the government doing that. I want to know what each one of us are doing to change and to forge the future of Trinidad and Tobago. And that's my personal, that's how I have lived, right? So there were marches. I went along to marches before I became involved in politics. There were topics to talk about. You talk about it fearlessly. The young people of today's generation, you all have to be fearless. Let your voice be heard. And to finish off that ICAT point, at the end, they stood up and they challenged me. They said, you know, which sane person, and this is the language they use, which sane person would actually offer themselves for public service? And that upset me. And I responded by saying, you know what, that is the problem with the country. Everybody likes to sit down on a Sunday while they're eating their lunch and complaining about the state of the country. They're very quick to sit down in the comforts of their homes, their corporate offices, etc., and complain about the country. But which one of them stood up and asked for their voice to be heard? And I told them, I said, you know what, everyone in this room, the only reason you wouldn't be prepared to serve in public service is if you have cocoa in the sun. Right? Because you can't tell me about the integrity in public life forms. I didn't want to personally fill them out, etc. But that is such a small hurdle towards doing what you can to contribute to society. And the whole room stood up and they applauded. Because people need to start doing that. And that's what you all as young people need to start leading with. I want your assistance in going forward, because the youth are important going forward into this general election. That is the vote that could help us to win, the youth vote. The first thing we have to do, and I want you all as the foundation to take it, this challenge from me personally tonight, start educating the youth out there about going to register to vote. Before we even get to a PNM message, the young people have to vote. Think about it. 5 years ago, people who were 13 are now entitled to vote because they've reached the age of 18, and how many of them have gone down and registered? That is going to be one of the messages I want to push in the coming weeks and coming months as I begin my walkabouts and as I begin more public speaking, etc. Young people, we must get up, we must be heard. It is what, in the last elections in the US, that's what got the Obama vote. He motivated the young people. I've looked at you already, social media and how it works, and the important role that we as the young people have to play going forward in the formulation of policy. Stand up and be heard, stand up and be heard in the party. But this Heliconia Foundation, you all must start to put forward your voice on national issues. Formulate your committees carefully. And whenever there's an important national issue, I want to open the newspapers, look at the television. I don't look at television, but at least open the newspapers and see you all have put out statements. This is what you have to do. Build legitimacy and build strength to your foundation and to your membership going forward. This is a good turnout here this evening. But as you all go back in your workplaces and you all are young professionals, start to motivate the people around you. Right? Start having, I keep repeating it, having your voices be heard. And that's one of my visions for Trinidad and Tobago, that we, the young people, will begin showing the generations and people across the board that we're not prepared to put up with anything you shove at us. We have minds of our own. We are thinkers. We have to start developing our thoughts. There are no boundaries. This thing about boundaries and being told what you can and you can't do going forward, apart from the laws, forget that. Because we as a young people, we don't see the parameters. We must push the boundaries of thinking. We must use that to develop our policy thinking. And we're going to start challenging the laws that are not equal laws and that have a lot of inequality. But you as a foundation, build your voice, make your voice be heard at a national level. And you all have already started to do that. It was unfortunate that your debate, your post-budget debate couldn't come off. We know the political reasons for that. But we will find alternative ways. They can't shut us up. We must never have anybody shut us up. And when it comes to having your voices heard, one of the things Michael raised at a higher level, you have people like myself. You have people like Senator Faris Al-Rawi, Terry Dial-Singh, etc. Reach out to us. Open the debate with us. Say, you know, you want to hear about this in Parliament. And have the conversations with us. We may have the opportunity, we may have a national platform to push your thoughts and your views forward. And I give you all my undertaking that I will work with you all. And I will give you all myself as a platform going forward. I'm not going to just do what you want me to do, but we will enter into debate. And once we have a consensual position going forward, that is the result of a thought process, I will present it. I will present it at any forum I can. Because that is how we begin to change. That's how we begin to mold the future. And that's one of the messages I want to give you all here tonight. When I was doing my screening process, I was going around to a lot of party groups and really getting a proper understanding of how this great party works. And I have to tell you all something. I'm very, very proud of the People's National Movement. And we have structure. What I have seen our party has doesn't exist with other parties. It's something for us to be proud of, and it's something for us, because we are the generation taking it forward now, to improve upon. Last night in my constituency, we had the central executive come and start rolling out the election plans and our election strategy. Again, I was proud. It shows we've gone through all of these elections before, and we know what we're doing. But it is us now, the young people, to improve upon it. And I use that, Mr. Hines, good evening. I use that as one of my pillars going forward. You'll hear me talking about the political renaissance. I had started off talking about new politics, but people told me they're fed up hearing politicians talk about new politics. So I will call it the political renaissance. And the political renaissance is us, the young people, putting our policies and pushing our ideas, our thoughts, our visions, and our mandates going forward. That we're not going to be constrained by the past and by history. We'll be guided by it, but not constrained by it. You're also going to hear me in the future talking about governance. Governance is something very dear to my heart. A lot of the matters I do and I practice in have a governance base. I mean, two of them within recent times. One was Trinidad Cement Limited, facing a board of directors that didn't want to be removed by the majority of shareholders. I pushed forward. It took 18 months, but finally it was achieved, and it's a landmark in the whole Caribbean region that minority shareholders can get together to decide who's going to be their board of directors. Another one that's currently ongoing is some people trying to open a school in Maraval. They didn't have any planning permission from Town and Country, Diego Martin Regional Corporation, or from the Ministry of Education. They weren't registered. And all of these statutory authorities wrote to them and told them stop. They ignored them and they pressed ahead. On the night before the school had to open at midnight, I got an injunction stopping them, and we're still fighting that matter in court. We're in the Court of Appeal on Monday coming, because they just keep at every which way trying to change it. It's wrong. The law applies to everybody. And I tell them, every time they stand up in court and they wail to the judge, oh, it's 200 children. I say, so what? If I want to rob a bank, I just walk with 200 children? It doesn't work that way. There are laws. Society needs laws for balances and checks. And people in our daily lives, let us start living that way. Let us be the beacons and the examples going forward for society, the wider society. That's how I intend to live it. I'm going to fall. There are going to be times I'm a human. I'm going to make mistakes, as we all will. But it's not going to stop me from that journey of trying to make a difference in Trinidad and Tobago. And being fortunate enough to have the opportunity that the People's National Movement and the Honorable Dr. Keith Rowley has given me to try and make that difference. And I want to ask for your help going forward on that journey. And in return, I will give you my help in whatever way I can assist, because I think The more and more I learn about this foundation, the more and more I interact with you all and I listen tonight, this is something any sensible person should support, and I must support. And the last thing you're going to hear me talking about going forward in the future, my third pillar, is integrity. It is time we reintroduce integrity into daily living. Years ago, the head of my chambers, Douglas Mendes, told me something very, very simple. And it is a truism. Every decision you make, try to make it for the right reason. And when you live your life like that, things start to get simplified. You don't have, when people tell lies, they have to remember the lies they told, etc., etc. The last 4 years in Trinidad and Tobago, we have seen the complete destruction of integrity at that level. And we must reintroduce it, and reintroduce it to the younger generation. And they must understand there's right and wrong, and we'll continue to preach and live it going forward, because talk is cheap. We have to walk the talk. And that is the important aspect for us as the future leaders, to start pushing down to the younger generations, but also making those above us aware of. We demand integrity. We demand integrity in every decision that is taken. What this government has done to us is unprecedented. We're not going to accept it. We must mobilize going forward. We are going into a general election. We're in a general election year. You all have an important part to play in that. But your role is bigger and wider than that. Your role is bigger and wider than the PNM. Your role is to spread the vision, spread the thinking. Let us start to be a generation across the board, not bound by politics and political parties, but a generation of thinkers. That can only strengthen us as a nation. And as I look around here, just you all be aware the opportunities come. I never thought I would have the opportunity to sit in the Senate. I never envisaged it. I never thought I would be running to try and become a member of parliament, and what that could mean. If that happens to someone like me, it could happen to anyone in this room. But in the meantime, make the right decisions, live lives of integrity, influence those around you and the wider society. Let your voices be heard, and let us be the ones to lead this great nation of ours going forward into the future. And that is really the message I wanted, the opportunity to start rolling out to you all tonight. And hopefully I will have more opportunities going forward, maybe not to stand up here, but to interact with you all. And let's start thinking. I want you all to start debating with me and the other leaders of the party and those who are going to be serving in the parliament. These are the thoughts and these are the ideas, these are the visions. Because people, at the end of the day, it's up to us. It's up to our children, and we have to make sure that this country grows and becomes something, continues to be something that we are all proud of going forward in the future. Thank you very, very much for the opportunity and for the privilege of addressing you all here tonight. Thank you.